Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I said pretty cool. Hello and welcome, everybody. This is the DNX Show. What's going on, Josh? Josh, good afternoon.
What's up, dude?
Pretty smooth out there, huh? So 2 o'clock on Friday for you. It's pretty nice. We got a little, few hours here, a couple hours of talking domains. It's 11. Still a little bit of morning left here, but I just wanted to say since we're streaming also on YouTube, of course, anybody listening to a replay, you can listen to it here on X. Pretty simple, and you don't have to have an X account to listen to replays. It's the same link. And I am putting the replays on DNX.show, but we're also putting them on YouTube just for now. I mean, basically, no one listens there; they listen here. But I just want to make that announcement. But we're still Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. But we just had a special time this week, and we may do this every once in a while. Pretty cool. But Josh, Friday the 13th is friggin' my lucky day. But you got the sale, right? I mean, did this just happen today?
That sale was actually from yesterday.
Well,
I just wanted to, um, I just wanted to like put a sale in there to get more people to like my shit.
Hey, this is the first time someone's mentioned me in their sale, so I'm loving all your congratulations. I get to see them. It's like, fuck, did I do something here? But okay, so fuck, I know people want to hear about it, but I guess it
I
looks like
mean,
they're
I
already.
don't care too much about the sale, but the thing is, if I don't put a sale, nobody listens to what I'm gonna say. So I'm just gonna like say stuff and add a sale in there so that people take notice.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us, and I did invite a good friend of mine, Vahid, to join us today. I saw him last night at a wonderful dinner he had for a lot of folks at his house. But he's built his portfolio up to 9,000 names, has a lot on Atom, and I did have an Atom sale. I'll tell you guys about that. But first, and I'll invite Vahid up as we're going on. But Josh, to kick things off, so this ally.co that you sold for 20,000, tell us
Mm.
about the acquisition, about the hold, about, I guess the sale too, but tell us about this thing. I think it's a nice price. Ally.co.
Yeah, I bought it 11 months ago, July 2024, and I paid $1,500 for it. So yeah, I think that actually 20 grand's a little on the lower side. Not terribly low. I had it priced at 50. I had the floor at 33. This was an old lead from a couple months ago. They capped out at 10 previously. And I guess after Nick keeps on top of them, sends them an email once in a while. They're pretty good at follow-ups, I would say, after Nick. Um, was able to get them to increase their offer to 20. Um, things have been a little slow for me in sales recently, so you know there are situations where I'll take an offer that's slightly below my floor, and that was one of them. So I don't like I said, I think it's a decent price. It's not a home run. It's not super low. Uh, I bought it for a good price. So like when I bought it for 1,500 last July, I would say that that was a steal. I would say that the wholesale value of that name is probably more in the 3 to 5K range.
Yeah, I got to think that too. And Josh, over 10 times, because everybody talks about a ten timer, a 10 multiple in less than a year. Fantastic. So basically, you just went back into your after Nick, and what'd you do? Tell the broker through the messaging, hey, see if this person is, still interested in this, just to try to, put,
No, they
start the
did.
fire. You.
They did it by them. They did it by themselves. I can see the activity that they send follow-ups once in a while to. I'm not sure what their criteria is for the type of leads that they continue to follow up with, but like I said, they'd made an offer for 10 a few months ago, um, and I got an email from my Afternic rep just saying, "Hey, this lead increased their offer to 20. It's the max they're gonna do. Kind of take it or leave it." And I just said, "Take it."
Heck, I love it, especially when you're right when sales are slower, get some activity. Uh, okay, so last night I went to a dinner over Vahid's in Woodland Hills. It's about 30 minutes from me. Fucking wonderful time. I mean, we had great food. And Vahid, I just ate some of my wife's leftovers that you gave to her. Wonderful food. Okay, but I don't know, Josh, have you met Vahid before? I think we've probably talked
No,
together.
I don't know, man. What's up, Vahid? Nice to meet you. I don't think we've spoken before, but I'm glad we're getting the opportunity to chat now.
Hey, nice to meet you too. Thank you, Todd. Yeah, I wasn't prepared, for this last night. Todd, he tossed it on my lap. He's all like, "Listen, we're gonna have a talk." So, I'm not gonna go into numbers because I don't have it. I want to give people accurate numbers. But just like Todd said, I started with many of you guys on Clubhouse, and a couple of years ago got into squad help back in the days, and now Adam, and started building a portfolio. And I know I got a bunch of my friends over here where everybody saw the whole process, making, being a new to domainer, making a lot of mistakes, picking up domains that may not have much value, and the holding cost might be too much. But as I came and I learned more from all the more seasoned people, especially Todd and a bunch of other people. I see Paul over there, Rigo over there, bunch of other people. I realized that, I may not be the best at picking up domains myself, but I'm able to kind of create my own little numbers game based on other people that were selling domain names and finding out how much it was costing them and what price ranges had the most amount of sell through rate, and kind of deciding, do I want to be on the lower end or on the higher end of domains. And I figured, domains from 1,500 to, like, $4,000, give or take, have much higher sell through rate, and acquiring them might cost less, versus other domains. So I figured I'd just pick that path and just continue with it. And with bunch of research, I got, kind of introduced to a bunch of other wholesalers on Squad Help, Adam now, and I've been acquiring domains for the past, I would say, 3 years. I think I'm at about 8,000 um, so far, and sales have been up and down, but on average I go through, 2 to like 5 domain names per month. Average sale, I think, is about 2,500 to 3,500, give or take. um Sometimes you have these one-offs where it's like, 6,000, 7,000, give or take, but majority of my portfolio on Atom is, I price everything below 4,000.
Nice.
um, but predominantly most of them being around 2,500 to 3,500. Um, and that's where it is. I think you kind of need to pick, and that was one of my mistakes that I did initially, not picking a lane that I wanted to stick to. So I figured I wanted to be on the lower end, and predominantly majority of the names are made up names. Some of them are two-word English dictionary words that are brandable, and
Okay,
that's
hold
where
on,
I'm at. So
Hold on. You'll notice in this room, I get real snarky, and of course you know me, so you know I'm gonna fucking rake you over the cold. Did I ask you a question yet? Hey, so this is really it's sort of fascinating, Josh. That last night, of course, now everybody knows in his circle, and there's 20, 25 of us there, that they know. So Vahid, yeah, is a domain investor now, and a lot of his friends. One guy runs an AI company, another guy SEO, expert. And I saw Rick Schwartz was saying some stuff about SEO. If you need an SEO expert, you got the wrong domain or something. But the point is, a lot of his friends, a lot of smart guys there, right? All knowing about domains, but still domain investing was like a little bit of a jump for him. Of course, there's a guy was telling me that he sold, just as builders, and they were selling names. But Vahi, what I think is really somewhat fascinating about what you've done. You said, okay, so Adam, Squad Help, he's got about 8,000, Josh, right now, about 8,000 premium names at Squad Help. he really, you mentioned some of these other guys there. Well, not wholesalers, because Sten's not a wholesaler, but I know you liked what Sten was doing for these, years, and thinking, hey, not a bad person to sort of mimic. But when it comes to building up to those 9,000, I wanted you to mention how you were buying 50, 100, name 200 name portfolios a couple years ago from, Squad Help, and you like to know that they're already accepted to the premium, what prices you were paying, and now what prices you're paying, and are you only looking at if they are already accepted to the premium network or premium marketplace? And yeah, tell us a little bit about these bulk acquisitions that you're buying.
Yeah, the first one that I kind of picked up was about, I want to say, about 1,000 domain names, and he was on Squad Help for a long time, and he wanted to kind of like exit for family reasons, and that was my kind of like start acquiring portfolios where it cut through a lot of the time that you need to spend in picking domains, submitting them, getting them approved, and then doing the rest of the stuff, description, writing the details about it, or thinking about if the domain name is good, potentially if you can build a business upon it, right? So I figured if they were already approved on Atom, that kind of saves me some time. um, but it also comes with its own downside that now you're picking up a bunch of domains where maybe some of them are good, some of them have potential, but there is always a bunch that you're just gonna carry over year to year, pay the renewal, and you may not see that much activity on it. So it does have its own ups and downs. Yeah, you could acquire them um, faster and build a portfolio, but it also, you got to cough up that money up front, not knowing that, which ones are the better ones that you should have paid a little bit more and pick those out of the portfolio. But most of the folks that I have built relationship with where they sell the portfolios, they tend to sell them in bulk. If you want to handpick, individual domain names out of them, out of the portfolio, obviously the cost would be much higher, and sometimes they won't even let you because they just want to, they want to sell the whole thing. But as far as acquiring, as far as the cost, um every year is different. This year, acquiring domain names, the cost wise, has come down tremendously, and I believe that one of the factors is that a lot of people sell through rate on Atom may not be as high as others, and the holding cost is forcing people to let go of portfolio, or let go some of their portfolio for lower cost to save the rest of their portfolio. And obviously, everybody has their own reasons why they liquidate and they get rid of their portfolio uh, on Atom. But this year, the cost has come down. Now, last maybe 6 7 months, sales have been much slower than the previous ones, and everybody's portfolio is different. Obviously, there are a bunch of people that I talked to that have had great success in the last 6 months versus the other 6 months. So it always fluctuates. I think you gotta take it as a 12-month cycle where it goes up and down. But yeah, acquiring the domain names right now has been really, really fun and lower cost than what it was. But then again, you don't know. It's very subjective. Lower cost compared to what? Is it the same? Is it good quality? Is it not? So that's where it is.
Well,
But
you
I
mentioned
stick to
last night.
.com.
Sorry to catch up. You mentioned last night that you're getting some that you might buy a bunch and have the prices equal to registering the name. So it is nice. I want to ask some questions about Adam, but Josh, how many names do you have over there on their premium marketplace? Just the regular premium.
800 ish.
Okay, so Vahid, so you have say 10 times the amount, and that right now about 8,000. And the nice thing about picking up those at wholesale, so you you really look at the names and you see the different qualities, but they've all been already accepted to Squad Help Premium. So basically, that is one requirement, and then of course, like you said, people want to sell in bulk, so that's just how it goes. Overall, how happy have you been? Not tell us a little bit about, I mean, because a lot of folks here listening, Atom, ATOM.com, was Squad Help. Darpin has done a lot of great stuff. Now they're a registrar. I want to know overall, what have you liked about it? What have you not liked about it? And then what do you think of them as a registrar? Are you going to move
I
names there?
mean, what I love about them is that every company has their own flaws, and they could definitely improve. But I feel like compared to other places where we sell domain names, I feel like the customer support is there. When you need them. Obviously, it doesn't go smooth each time, but at least they're there. The respond rate. The time that they take to respond to you is much shorter than other platforms. I like that they really follow up when their payment plan people don't follow through. They actually follow through, so they've been able to recover a bunch of them back up again on payment plan. I love that they take a down payment, which kind of incentivize the end user to follow through with the payments that they're supposed to be making. So that part is good, and the payout, frankly, is very fast. I have gotten pays, within 8 hours of the domain names being sold, and the highest, I think, the longest I've ever waited for Adam to pay out was 4 days, and that was because the other party, the client, the end user who bought it, couldn't decide if they want to keep it at the same registrar or transfer it somewhere else, and that was the delay. So I think them following through on the payment part is very important to me, because we have renewals coming in every single month. So rather than coming out of my own pocket for renewals, if we can get paid faster from the platform and take that money and spend it on renewal, that kind of helps out. So those are some of the stuff. The other thing that I loved about them from the beginning was that you know I believe that they spend a lot of money in marketing and retargeting, especially when it comes to brandable domain names, because a lot of people may not be looking at the exact match search. So I think them pushing that through a lot of startups, Google ads, Instagram, Twitter ads, all of these places, I think that just brings more audience to their platform, and hopefully we have the right domain name to kind of be displayed and them buying it. But overall, um, I hope that my sales increase, but so far it's been okay. um, but it is an investment. I figured within the first 5 years, it's just whatever that comes through is going to go back into um, the portfolio. So whatever I've made so far, I've gone back and reinvested back into the portfolio. I don't have the numbers I know RF is probably going to ask me that question. Like, I don't have the numbers yet. Um, as far as this year goes, to see how much money I've spent in buying portfolios and how much I've made, and then obviously adding the renewal cost. So there's like a bunch of factors that come into it to figure the numbers out. But overall, my experience has been very positive, and I think one of the reasons that contributes to that is having a bunch of you guys that are much more seasoned kind of throw these little nuggets out, and then me going and doing more research to figure out what I need to do for my business to be profitable. So that's where it is. But I'm a long-term holder, so a lot of people may not agree with that type of investment, but I already knew going into it for the first 5 years, I'm not taking any profit and I'm investing in it. So that's my strategy, and my goal is hopefully by end of the year I get to 10,000, because I know first time I heard Sten talk, um, somehow I don't know if it was exact number or not, but I think it was like around his portfolio at that time was about 10,000. So I was like, okay, that's my target. He's got 10,000. I got to get 10,000. Now I'm hoping that the next couple of thousand that I need to pick up, I'm looking for a little bit more through looking at the domain names through different lenses, knowing what domain names have sold so far and which categories have a higher tendency of sell-through rate. So It's very subjective, but I'm happy with the way Squad Hub and Adam have done it so far. Obviously, I've given them a lot of feedback on what they could improve on, but I think they got a lot of the major components right.
Well, Vahid, I certainly wish you the best. I mean, for sales, I have a recommendation, a suggestion that I think. I mean, I think you're in a good spot with acquiring now, because I think now that they're a registrar, that and they have this program, they may allow people to let their names expire. And I'll talk about that in a second. But I want to say, Josh, did you have any questions or anything for Vahid? I mean, he's a new domainer that last 5 years been in it, trying to get to 10,000 pretty fast. I mean, any questions or advice?
Sounds like Vahid has a plan, and he's executing on his plan. Not really. No, I mean, there's definitely something to be said about piggybacking on the platform that is innovating and having the most success. So I think that uh, you know relying on Atom in some regard is a smart move.
Before I give you the advice, I wanted to give you, Vahid, what percent is .com as opposed to everything else?
I'm like 98% .com. I only have a few .nets, a few .cos, and a few .ios, and that's all. I don't think I have any other extension there. Like 99% is .com.
Well, okay, so my advice, and then all we're going to talk about the rest of the day is domain investing, a lot of different things going on. So if you can, I know what you're doing today, so you're busy, but listen, stick around, chime in when you want. But my advice is, okay, so they're becoming a registrar, Adam. You have so many names there, and you've spent a lot of money with them, and you have a great relationship with the whole team. So when they I guess the registrar's live, what I would do, and I'm sure you've probably already done some of this, but anyway, I'm just saying it out loud. So you say, hey, listen, I'm certainly going to move some of my portfolio to Adam. I'm an Adam customer. I want to be the number one customer, not only in sales, but I'm going to bring my names over. So I'd like them, an opportunity to do that at cost, maybe the first year. The reason I say that is, of course, you deserve it. You're spending money there. But so if you can at least bring a lot of names over, they're going to appreciate that. And then you do have, since you're buying these portfolios, and there's some bullshit in the portfolios, even though they're accepted by the premium marketplace. That way, now that you're going to have your names at Adam, and in a year from now, when a lot of those expire, and by then I suspect you'll have more than 10,000, 11, 12,000 names. Then when you want to start thinning your names out, you already have them at Adam. You let them expire at Adam. Adam is going to have their auctions. Hopefully it's geared up a little, more momentum, more, just more marketing they've done, and people know about it, more awareness. So when you let some names expire, they'll be at that registrar, and you can recoup some of the money that you've spent, because there's going to be a time, you're like all of us, you have a big portfolio. Some of these names you're buying in bulk, so not some of them you'd want to drop. I love their program that they're going to split the money. I don't know if it's a 50-50 split. I don't know the deal, but I think once that starts rolling, you're also not going to have the opportunity to buy a bunch of these names at these fucking super low prices, because people are thinking, I'm just going to let them drop and see what I can get that way. And if they, get eyes on their expired, auctions like some of the other registrars do, it's going to be fucking worthwhile. I mean, I'm not even an Adam customer. I got a white label there, and I sold a name. I mean, I still have these white label names. I would consider that's a feature I want. That's a feature Namebright said that they were going to do. Jeff and Andrew at Turn Commerce said, yeah, we like that idea of, if you have a name at our registrar, you let it expire. They got drop catch, that. So if they can get eyes on the expired name and sell it, and then you get a piece of it, that's what I'm wanting. That would make me also speculate more as a domain investor, because I feel like, a lot of these names, by a couple hundred meta names, let them go, and then just maybe a few of them will sell. And I know they did, because I saw when I see when I drop all sorts of things. I've dropped 1,000 or two, actually more than that, probably the last few years, and I see dozens of them, because they're 20 years old. Dozens of them sell at GoDaddy expired auction for 100, a buck 50, 290, and I'd like to get 30% of that, 20%. So anyway, that's my advice. Are you interested in moving your names to Adam as a registrar, especially if you get a great transfer price? Yeah, that was a question. Yeah, I was on mute there. They can hear me on YouTube when I'm on mute because I leave my. Yeah, that was a question. So, are you going to tell him you want a good price and you're going to transfer things to Adam, or what?
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely look into it. I know that they made the announcement, but I haven't thought about what I want to do because a lot of my domains are renewed a while ahead of the renewal date. So I got to kind of make a little bit of a calculation to see if that makes sense for me to wanting to transfer now, or do I wait as the expiration date comes closer, then transfer over there and have it over there. So that's uh that's a good. I got to give it a little bit more thought. Like, do I want to move it over there? What's the advantages of all that stuff? Plus, is the registrar, like, some of my domain names are part of the fast transfers? Like, are they going to be part of the fast transfers yet? So I got to do a little bit more research on it.
Yeah.
But thank you for having me today.
Oh no, thank you. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Hey, like I said, we're just going to talk now about a lot of domain investing for the next hour and a half. Uh, Josh, there was what I have down here. There was something I wanted to ask you so specifically. Well, I go through a lot of your tweets, but one thing was, I know you were saying, hey, if the Asian market's really into, these .ais, then they'll pick up the rest of these 3Ls. I look at some of the 3L.ai, and pretty much the crappy ones are left. You can find some good stuff, but do you own any? And were you sort of joking when you said that? Do you think there's potential in, three-letter .ais? Can anybody else hear him? It's one of those things. Vahi, can you hear Josh? Somebody put a thumbs up. Can you hear Josh? Oh, everybody can hear. Oh, Darcy says no. Adam says yes. Okay.
What's up, bro?
Yeah, they can hear you, Josh. I can't. Darcy says he can't. I'm going to leave and come in. Adam can't. Most people can, I guess.
No, I can't. Can you hear me,
Yeah,
Todd?
Jason. Yeah, I can hear you, Jason. Thanks
All
for
right, my
thanks for
connection
jumping
was
up
back.
here.
Yeah, after
And
2 weeks, I tried to come up 2 weeks ago, and fucking no one could hear me.
oh yeah,
So.
yeah. There's always problems here. Hey, Josh, I don't know. Did you go inside and outside? Maybe it went from cellular to Wi-Fi, but it won't do it if you just refresh and rejoin. It's not gonna kick you out or anything. Try it again. Go is saying I can't. But most people say they can't hear you, and I can, which is the most.
What about now?
Now, yeah, now we can hear you.
All right, I just switched my laptop. Sorry about that. So you can hear me good?
Yeah. So about the three-letter .ai, is there promise there for investors, you think?
I probably have like 30. So not that many. Yeah, 30, 40 of them, but they're all very very high quality. So I'm talking like more than 200 TLDs taken. The type that are now selling in like the Namecheap auctions for, I don't know, like 3-4K. So why did I say that? I'm just like, I mean, I think it's gonna happen. So let's just get it done already. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And if you see you get a three-letter .ai, because I look at them and then I see everything else. Right, there's some registered, but .com's available. Basically, I like short, so I want three-letter, and with that, you just got to be careful because you're paying a buck 50. And is there anything there? I think I think more attractive is CVCV .ai, and there's no market for those. So it's
Mm,
like it definitely is speculating, but at least .ai people are, it's like looking through the shit. It's like looking through
if you're registering bottom of the barrel .ai names, it's a pure investor play. Like, you're not registering those names because you think they're going to sell to end users, because they're not. Just the same way that bottom of the barrel three-letter.coms don't sell to end users. Uh, it's just a scarcity play. You're just hoping that we get a little bit of that 2015 2016 Chinese premium type market that starts to build these prices up, so that you might register one of these lower value .ai names, or three-letter .ai names, for, like you said, $150 or whatever for 2 years, and you know hoping that maybe over the next couple of years the floor on them goes up to 500, 1,000, or whatever. If you register 100 of them and a floor develops on these, then you do pretty well. And I don't think that's a far-fetched thing to happen at this point. Especially if the Chinese market really take hold of .ai and get their teeth sunk in and decide they're going to, you know, deploy some capital in that area. It won't take very much for the market to develop there.
Yeah, I mean, with only 16, 17,000, whatever the math is there. So I'm going to look, and I don't mind the X and Z together. The Asian market loves it. So if there's still some available, you're right. If the wholesale floor goes to 500, just 500, from where from that registration of $1.50 for 2 years. Well, it's nice when if you have 20 of them, you can get out anytime. At least if it really does go to that, so then you can get out anytime. You just list them and get out, and then of course there's certain combinations where you'll get a double that, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. So the scarcity, I love that play. Hey Jason, I appreciate you.
It's a volume play as well, right, dude? So,
Yeah,
like, I mean, it's not like this is something that hasn't happened before. It's happened in so many ways, right? So, first of all, it happened with three-letter.coms, and then that translated over to four-letter.coms, and then within four-letter.coms there were certain categories, and then it was five number.coms. All of them got snatched up, and then it was six number.coms.
yep,
So, like,
yep.
if it's happening with six number.coms during a hype cycle, then I don't think it's too unreasonable to think that it's going to happen with three-letter.ais.
Yeah, it's not far fetched at all. That's why it would always get me. People read the bullshit all the time about the past repeats itself. It might not happen, but it's more likely than a lot of other speculative bullshit. So I always felt that way about the four-letter. And I don't even have any four-letter Chinese premium. I probably have a few, but I mean that means no vowel, no V. Well, it can. It probably it will likely happen again before a lot of other stuff takes off. But anyway, I love the idea of the revisiting. It's certainly possible. That's why it only makes sense. But only 17,000. If Asia has their eye on three-letter.ai, well then immediately the wholesale floor goes up because there's just nothing there. Um, well, I see. I was gonna say Jason. Appreciate
Hey,
Jason.com
hey guys. Hey,
joining us.
Josh. I'm just curious. Your bulk of your AI portfolio, did you acquire it on the aftermarket? Are they end user purchases? Are they drops, or how'd you get into the .ai? And you mentioned you had really good, 3-letter .ai. Can you give us some examples of a few of your best
Yeah,
own? Or
I can. I bought a bunch of them in the aftermarket. I bought most of them from the Namecheap portfolio, um, when Namecheap had them listed at like $900 each. They don't list them that cheap anymore. This was beginning of the year, so maybe 6 months ago.
What they had keyword names at $900 or
There were some good names but they had a bunch of 3 letter. So the 3 letter market, at least at the high end, was trailing behind, like, and still is trailing behind, premium one words, which makes sense. It's the same thing in .com, but I picked up stuff like MSL.ai, DTA.ai, MCM.ai, GCG.ai, IML, PCM, CMG, BWS, like all of these, NTP, CSB, MFS, like all of, if you look up DTM, if you look up all those combinations, they're all like, registered in 200 plus TLDs. If you go to Crunchbase and LinkedIn, there's loads of companies that use them. And then within that, I also, when I'm looking at 3letter.ai's, I'll type in, that 3-letter acronym followed by AI, so I can just, see what might be out there. And most of them have a couple of things.
are you getting a lot of inquiries on these?
No, not at all. It's not at all. I don't get a lot of inquiries on like super, like really good names. I think honestly, I don't know about you, man, but I feel like um you could have really, really good names and not get that many inquiries on them. Um, it's just a case of, right time, right place. So I've had .coms that I've sold, for 6 figures, and I wouldn't get an inquiry on them all year. And then when the right person comes along, it just happens.
Yeah, I mean, I got to chime in and say I always bullshit because I don't really have many six-figure names, probably none people would consider. But I used to tell people, if you got a 6 or 7 figure name, you're going to know because you're going to get inquiries all the time.
Mm.
$10,000, $20,000 inquiries per month. And I know it's bullshit. I just say that because I want people to fucking think I don't have any, just like me. But the
I
truth
mean,
is,
there's different ways to, protect against getting inquiries that you don't want to field as well, right? It's like, if I just had a page up saying, this domain is for sale, make an offer here, and I didn't, put any kind of expectations around price, then I might get, plenty of inquiries on high value names. But, if I put a lander up on a premium oneword.com and, I say that the asking price is $1 million, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, that just kind of steers away the tire kickers that, want to send you an email and say, hey, I'll give you $20 and a Snickers bar.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I always wonder when the guys, some of the big time domainers that we know have $1 million names and don't put a price. How much bullshit do you have to deal with? Because it does give people guidance when you put at least minimum offer, which seems weird because everybody's always going to make the minimum offer. But Jason, you would know too about especially other extensions. You got great name, doctor.io, world.io. Have you ever got inquiries on, or how frequent have you got inquiries on some of these true premiums in other extensions?
If they were parked at a proper landing page with a inquiry field, I would get inquiries. But again, not a lot. I was going to explain the story. I used to know well, I still do, of someone that used to own weed.com, back in like 1997 when, it was, what was that site? dnsite.com or something, or DN forum, or I forgot
DN forum, yeah.
yeah, the forum prior to Name Pros or whatever. And they found someone who was selling weed.com for like, 175 grand. And then 3 guys, they came together. They're like, dude, we have, a chance of a lifetime to buy weed.com for, 175 grand. There's like three college kids, and they pulled together 175 grand. And then later on, they sold it for like 250 or like 300 or even like half a million, I think. That was to Carlos or someone. So, but the point of the story is, once you have we.com in your account, he was telling me, once he got the name transferred in his account, he sees we.com in his control panel. He's like, then what? You know, you got we.com in your account. It's like, then what?
It's like when you buy. It's like when you buy a new car, dude, and you're like, you're just like fascinated with this car, and you take
Right. Then you park it in your garage, and then
yeah,
it's like,
and yeah,
you got to go to bed, and it's like, it's still parked in your garage. It's like a weird feeling, but so,
yeah, yeah. And you're
yeah.
looking at it, and you're like, I don't actually need this. Like,
Same as
what?
Jason.com. So I don't have I don't even know if I'm doing it correctly or not. I have it directed to my LinkedIn profile, which my LinkedIn profile is bullshit, but, because I didn't want to have it directed to a, inquiry page. And, the point of this is, between some of my other, premium names, I feel, between Jason.com and my other, premium name, it's like people think that they're so premium. It's that they don't even make an offer because they don't think that these names could, potentially be for sale. So, like there's other people in, in this room right now, someone owns Sirius.com. It's like the same thing. It's like, does someone think they can actually purchase that name? Probably not. So, so they don't send.
Well,
Yeah, I don't see
that's one of
myself
the
getting
things
contacted that
about
much for my
that's
names. Yeah.
that's a really good point, by the way, and that's why you often see fresh acquisitions get sold quickly after they are acquired. Someone like a James Booth or an Andy Booth are pretty are pretty well renowned for this kind of thing. But other guys as well, is when you're able to acquire names that are not clearly or have not clearly been listed for sale, either on marketplaces or on landing pages or what have you. Uh, it is not uncommon for a domain investor to then, put a lander up and immediately start getting serious inquiries. Um, so I would say that if you are looking to actually sell names, make sure that your name is A, listed for sale
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
marketplaces, and B, clearly shows on your landing page that it is for sale.
Yeah. As for Jason.com, I did ask Rick Schwartz, and he's like, dude, that should be your last name you should ever sell. So, yeah,
I mean,
so I may follow his
that
advice.
one's
And
special to you, so it's different, right?
it's my first name, of course, as if you own,
He'd sell it so
the
fast. He doesn't
dot
care,
com
and
tier.
you're not Rick
Well,
Schwartz, and you don't give a
I'll,
shit. And
I'm,
he's old and got a bunch of money, so he
I
doesn't
don't
even.
give a
He's not.
shit.
He can't. You're young and
Here,
healthy.
check this
Okay,
out.
so you might need the motherfucking money. So anyway, I know I don't mind it
Right. I'm going to
pointed
be
to
honest with
LinkedIn.
you.
Yeah.
The typical suspect that
Yeah,
should buy
Jason.
Jason.com,
Yeah,
the one that just purchased the .com.
begin.
What do you buy?
Begin.com.
What was it?
Begin.com.
Yes, yeah, begin or begun. Yeah, begin. Yeah, begin. .com. He actually inquired on it, so it's just, and I was actually honest enough. I told him what I paid for it. So, so I mean, considering, if he's still interested, he knows what I paid for it. And I mean, if I can get double for it, you know um but
Yeah.
still, it's like, if I part with the name, it's like, the name's gone, and it's, I'd rather keep the name, in
I
my
think you
opinion.
deserve more than double, but I'd say if somebody
Right.
can round up to a cool mill. You'll never have the name anymore. It's not a misspelling. I know Jason. Everybody knows it's spelled Jason, not En. Even though some people will spell
What about a
Jaycen.
Y?
But yeah, the crazy. But the thing is, there's brands out there that are already called Jason. But I think a million is reasonable. I like the idea.
I never
Or
even
more.
checked Jayson,
Yeah. Well,
and I never even bothered.
pointing to your LinkedIn page, I think one thing you can do is just put in uh, you can put in your little top at the bio, just say, okay, if you're interested in this domain name, you reach out to me about purchasing. The people, I don't think. I mean, at least it's a business, because if you had to point it here to your ex, you know, the thing is, I think it's okay because people love the idea. They always think people go to it. They think you're, oh my God, who is this guy? People don't. They think you're sitting there, on a yacht somewhere, which that's what you need to
I
pretend
wish.
anyway. Um,
That's what I'm hoping.
no, I mean, but I
Shit.
know
No,
you got a lot
no,
of
it's
listen.
not. No, it's not about ego.
Yeah,
But
well, I mean, you got listen. I know you're doing fine. You got a beautiful house. Those cars that he was talking about, Josh. Yeah, he bought the
but
real
when you
nice
buy
cars, that Tesla after
we.com
Tesla.
yeah, but when you buy we.com and you have we.com in your control panel, that's effing boss, But it was my story was actually mistaken. They bought it for 175. It was three guys. Chris Williams. I'm not sure if everyone heard of True Leave, down here in Florida. Their little dispensary on every corner. They have a brand called Sunshine Cannabis, and Chris Williams is the guy that started Sunshine Cannabis, and he's the same guy that banded together and bought weed.com back in 1997 off that dnforum.com for 175. Then they flipped it less than a year later for 750 for 3/4 of a million, and I guess they split the 750 between them.
Well,
I think it was not bad.
if anybody's interested in any keyword cannabis names like cannabisdelivery.com or marijuanadelivery.com or marijuanaedibles.com
Just
or
go to abcproductions.com.
even marijuanamarket.com or cannabismarket.com, cannabisdrinks.com, anything great keywords. Yeah, come to me. I'm going to tell you, I picked up some on Name Pros way back in 2003, 2004, so low that you can't even, so low. But then I don't, why would I say that when I'm still asking for
$290.
some pretty reasonable, I think I'm ask reasonable prices. So if you're interested, yeah, just reach out to me, Todd Ryan. But no, David, or yeah, I was going to say Jason with the
All right, let's
weed.com.
get some interaction going with the audience, Todd.
Okay. Hey, all right. Well, first I wanted to say the guy who owns Sirius. Yeah, I know he's here, and I'll just
Serious.com guy?
yeah. I don't know. I wanted to use that for a serum, and then I find out there's already a Sirius serum because I was going to propose something to this owner, and well, I'll just tell you who it is. It's let me make up something. It's Rigo. No, it's Arif. No, Siger owns it, and he
Siger says.
yeah, Siger owns it, and I say Siger because yeah, I'm mad at Mike right now, and that is last week here on our show we said he's in his contest where he's doing selling buy names for $500. It's going against the other guys, and I said, hey, consider going to Name Pros because people there's shit going on there, and he said I don't like the attitude over there and a bunch of other bullshit. And then
Oh
and
yeah.
then he puts out his newsletter, who I'm always telling people get Siger's newsletter. Like I tell him to do that more than to be friendly with my mom. And he doesn't mention my name. He mentions like 30 names. So what did he come on stage? Looked like I welcomed him. Let's see if he's
Rigo's on the stage.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, that
There we
that
go.
is true. That is true. That the idea to sell them on Name Pros came from Todd, and he didn't get the proper appreciation.
let him speak. This guy. Well,
Wait, you're waiting for Rigo to speak?
no, yeah, you. I mean, so you didn't remember that? I know it was over a week ago, and you've had so much stuff happen. But tell us about the sales and tell us. So you're leading the group, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I felt the pressure. Joe emailed and said, "Hey, we need to record a podcast episode." And so I quickly went to everybody's tab on the spreadsheet for the $500 domain sale competition, and I'm like, I got to move some of these domain names. So I quickly listed some for sale on Name Pros and sold 4 out of the 6 that were sitting in sort of like inventory, waiting for somebody to click that buy it now button on Afternic or any of the registrar partners. And I moved 4 of them, so $400, and I'm in the lead of the competition. I gave you a shout out during the podcast that we recorded yesterday, Josh. I'm like, yep, we need to do what Josh did when he entered the you know, I refer to you as one of the newer investors in the industry. I'm not sure you're one of the newer investors anymore, Josh, but you're still one of the newer. And you came in by flipping. And I'm like, that's what we need to do in this competition. We need to flip domain names. And if I can buy them for $17 and flip them for 100 or 85 after commission, then I can build up a little bit of money and hopefully find something a little bit bigger, a little bit tastier that I can flip to somebody else for a few more bucks. So that's what I'm trying to do.
did he say he shouted you out, Josh?
Listen, Todd, you're a sidekick, okay, dude?
No,
Yeah, so you're Josh.co.
Listen, Todd was the one. Todd invented Name Pros, so don't throw Todd under the bus.
yeah. I mean, that's unbelievable. But I do get treated a certain way. So I did invite some people to come up here because I cannot take. Well, I see Ragu took me up on it. I sort of expected that, Ragu. And I was telling, well, I'm going to keep it private right now about some of Ragu's recent acquisitions. But Ragu, so what's up? Thanks for joining us. How's it going in Toronto today?
Very good. Thank you for asking. And hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm relaxing and weather is really great. Working on domains and making good progress, but I'm still waiting for good sales. And it's not happening. I don't know why. Other than that, I'm very happy to listen to your achievements and all that. What else? Nothing else.
Well, speaking of Rick Schwartz, I just got a notification from LinkedIn. I'm not sure if anyone got that notification too.
Ragu, sell some wholesale, man.
No, I'm not selling no wholesale, but I'm planning to visit Florida in November for this NameCon. This is definite. Yeah.
So, what's your Ragu? What's your general strategy if you could sum it up in a few sentences?
Well, I have a niche as well, so I work on a special keywords.
Yeah,
I love.
he takes brands. He takes brand names.
Yeah, brand names. No brand names. I own Bollywood stuff. I own a lot of Bollywood. I sold a lot of Bollywood names, and I own Bollywood.org, which is I like. I have my 50% domains are belongs to Indian subcontinent and all that Southeast Asia.
Other companies.
Yeah.
Bollywood.org.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, Josh, hold on. Jason was right there. Hold on. He does take some brand names. He picked up on the aftermarket paynow.ca. Okay,
Yeah.
but he's pretty slick, pretty slick, and but the thing is, the thing I'll say about PayNow, I mentioned to Arif the other day was PayNow's in like those two words. Of course, you guys go to paynow.com and
I think I have the .tue.
sign up for the wait list because we're testing now. Basically, it's going to be your last chance to sort of get on the wait list before we actually launch, and we're going to do something special for all the people that don't wait. Okay, but the point is, so we can't go out after all different pay now extensions, but I wanted to say, yeah, Ragu is a domainer. He hears somebody else, oh, you're doing this, and you're my brother-in-law. I look what I got for you. It's not for you, but when you set up your affiliate program, maybe I can make money off your company.
I was inspired by you when I was buying this name at the auction. This name expired and it was an auction. And I was inspired by you guys, Todd, and I got this name. But the good news is Monday I have set up a meeting with one of the big investors for the banking, and they invited me to discuss about this matter. So I have a little light I can see. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I was telling.
What do you think about?
Yeah.
What do you think about the ucoin.com sale for $200,000?
250.
I think it was 198.
In fact, I think it's great. I think one letter. I think U is not one of the more popular ones, but I don't know if there's a U coin out there. But seems pretty good for a couple $100,000. Hey, Josh, you wanted a bunch of people up here. Well, they're up here. I want to say hi to Arif and Paige. See what they have to say first. Arif, that means Paige. We'll talk to you in like 30 minutes. But Arif, what's going on?
Man, let Paige talk. He's always got all kinds of wisdom going on.
Okay, say
but yeah, no, but just
Hey.
good to see.
Paige, would you have priced ucoin.com at $198,000?
No,
Why not?
because I'm a terrible domainer and I still have to pay and I still have to renew too many names. But the truth is, if I could get, we all say it, but if you could get your portfolio down to where you could explore the maximum possible extraction on your names because you don't have any other expenses to pay, that's the most beautiful place to be. And that's how you get 198, in my opinion.
Sure, but like, what makes you even price it that high? Like the other day, I saw a domain. Well, every single day, I'm sure you guys have the exact same thing. I saw like KX93 sold for like $8,800. And
Yeah.
everybody's like, congratulations, congratulations. I do a search on Google. I don't even see why that sold for $8,800. Like, does that happen to you guys daily as well?
The
Dave,
SEO,
all
right?
the time. All the time. I think that we talk about this a little bit, but it's very random sometimes when you're in this echo chamber and you see on all these sales coming through, and some of them seem like such extreme outliers that it makes you wonder, and it makes you doubt everything that you're doing in the domain space. And I will say this: there is some, like ucoin.com on the surface, you think it's not a good name, or like it's not an amazing name. Like it's a good name, but you wouldn't price it at 200 grand. But then at the same time, it's taken in 95 extensions. It obviously appeals to the crypto market. The crypto market does irrational things, and just those things in themselves are a good reason to maybe shoot the moon, or whatever you want to call it. So I don't know, but
Well, I think I'll throw another scenario out to you. If the buyer, say you had your email and the buyer emailed you and they were tagged as spam and you didn't even get their inquiry, and then they emailed again in 3 weeks, and then they hired a GoDaddy broker, and then they just said, you know what, I've just got to find this person, and they keep saying, how much is it worth to us? How much is it worth to us? It's almost like the buyer starts upping, like, just get it. Does that make sense, Josh? And then if all of a sudden you did respond to their email and you happen to be in a mood where you said 350 and they were like, we've got board approval for 175 and you said 190, but it's almost like you have to have that first part of it where you just let them really ask themselves, how much would we pay for the foundational asset of our entire company? And I just wish I could do that more, as opposed to trawling like bait, buy it now prices on Afternic.
yeah, I think that one of the keys to this that's really quite hard to do is buy names where there is no alternative. And that is not easy. Let me tell you, that is not easy in a world where TLDs are becoming more adaptable. Companies are becoming more comfortable branding on different TLDs.
Josh, hold on. I was going to say, I know I can find an alternative for anything, and we're going to have an example. But first, I want to say hi to Shane for joining us. Hey, Shane, what's up?
No, I don't want to interrupt Josh. I always like hearing what he's going to say, but
We're going
no, I'm
for
good.
we're going for
When
another hour.
Michael got me up here when he was saying, I think when I scroll X, I just wonder whether I'm doing domain investing right or not, right? Like I think I've got it all under control. I think I've got my pricing right. And then I see all these great sales and I think, just like everybody up here, I think mine are better than that. Maybe they should be a little higher. Maybe I'm leaving money on the table because I don't need it for expenses. So would one really good sale make up for all these other lower priced or smaller names? Those are questions we ask every day. Sometimes I think I should just walk away and just price them a little high and then not answer any emails.
Hey, Josh,
Yeah,
before
but then
hold
the
on,
other
Josh,
thing that we talk about,
before
right,
you
is like,
respond to your
hold
buddy
on one
Shane,
second.
hold on. before you respond to your
I'm
buddy Shane.
responding. I'm responding to my buddy Shane.
Okay,
about
but
that,
hold on.
about his
Before you
point.
do it, I had a joke and I wanted to say it because Shane touched on it
Oh.
that you question everything you're doing, just like Mike said. Like you said, you question everything, and I questioned. I told my wife, why did I marry you? And I told Bobby, my dog, why do I even have? So it really gets outside of domain questioning. Okay, so that wasn't a great joke, but so I chimed in and fucked things
Oh
up.
my
Josh, go
God.
ahead.
No, I don't want to say anything anymore.
Yeah, right.
I think we have to leave Todd with the comparing making a bad decision on buying a domain to marrying his wife. And you just have to own that for a little bit, okay?
Yeah. No, I was saying, like, one of the things is that we all want that big sale. But then if I told you you can have that one big sale for 198 grand, but for the rest of the year, you just need to sit and refresh Afternic every day and never see a name on hold, until that one name that sells in 365 days. Most of us would be like, fuck, not to. I want to see names on hold more frequently than that, because we're all adrenaline junkies, and one a year is not enough.
Yeah, it's all about like optimization, right? Like, I mean, there's multiple sweet spots sometimes for different types of domains, right? You can price them to the moon, right? Or you can price them more reasonable, where you can have multiple potential buyers and have a much higher sell-through rate, right? And there's not always one answer that's better than the other, right? Sometimes it's you want to price the moon to some domains, and then for the others you want higher velocity and sell-through rates, and because overall you'll make more money, even if it's less per domain, you'll sell far more domains. And again, there's no magic answer, right? And that's the thing when you're looking at X too, Mike. Like it's frustrating sometimes, yeah, because you see all these sales like my domain's way better than that one, right? But it's like, and I never would have dreamed of pricing it that high, right? Because you don't think it'll ever sell. And then sure enough, you see on X somebody, it's not, you can't always trust everything on X, but at the same time, it's like, there is the one thing we have to like admit is that there's a lot of luck in this industry, right? But there's also probabilities, right? And you can play with probabilities.
What
right?
can't we trust on X? Let's dig into that.
No, some of the sales reports, no?
You tell me some.
I don't know. Like I see stuff scrolling all the time. Right now, I don't think anything at the top of my mind, but I mean, people say, oh, you sold a domain for like $25,000. I don't know, is it true or not? But at the end of the day, like it doesn't really bother me. Like it bothers me a bit, and not like, oh, I wish I could, do that too. But it's like at the same time, like I don't let it affect how I do my domaining, if that makes sense.
I mean, when I see the Booth brothers, sell, $1 million name every other week, it makes me fucking jealous. You want the truth? I'm like, shit, dude. I want to sell, a name for $1 million, and they seem like they're flipping, $1 million name every other 3 weeks. It's crazy.
So I'm not going to say not jealous.
Don't compare yourself to a Booth ever. That is the number one rule of domating. You compare yourself to a Booth, and you're gonna immediately regret it.
Maybe that's what's going on.
It's not about like, I'm not going to say I'm not jealous. Obviously, like if somebody has $1 million sell, it's like, oh yeah, I'd love to have that myself, right? But at the same time, you have to be realistic with your own portfolio and your own domains and price them at the right spots and price points that make sense, right? And again, sometimes if you have that far out domain that has only like 1 or 2 buyers, well then yeah, you price it to the moon, right? But then if you have stuff that you can have potentially dozens of buyers, and you want to get some velocity, sometimes it's better to price it at $5,000 as opposed to $20,000, because at the end of the year you'll sell 7 times as many domains, right? And you'll more than make up for the difference.
They probably sold Velocity.ai for $1 million. They're crazy.
Yeah, well, do you know what they're really good at? They're good at identifying names that have the ability to sell for high prices. It's like if we priced all of our portfolios super high, there might be like a tiny fraction of them that have the ability to hit that moonshot.
Well, they got a little edge on Adam or Squad Help too.
Not they. James had a little edge, but people are starting to catch on now.
Like $750K per .ai name. It's like like no one else. They're going to price those names for that price.
Well, Atom have undoubtedly got a pool of buyers that are loyal to buying domains on Atom. So if you have a large portion of the Atom inventory, you're obviously going to get more sales exposure on your names.
Yeah, and are there all their .ios are priced at like 288, or now they're priced at like 48, 488K. Like almost half a million for their .ios. Just nuts.
Yeah. Plus, what's really important with Atom is, like, as fantastic as a platform it is as much respect as I have for Darpin, we don't know what the sell-through rates are as well, right? And plus they don't pay the renewals, so for them it's a different business, right? And yeah, we can look at the one-offs, but we don't know how many domains. Like, somebody, sure, they could sell an IO or an AI for 488,000, you just said, but how many domains of those did they buy at 100,000 to sell one at that, right? Did they buy two? Then it's fantastic. Did they buy 8? Then it's gone.
I think Atom as a platform has for sure the highest sell-through rate in the business. Like, not even close.
Hey, Josh, I was going to ask you.
Well, can I jump in there, Todd, real
Sure.
quick? They should, because they get to curate.
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, they get to curate. So, yes, their denominator is already curated for things they like. And what Arv's talking about, I agree with, which is, did I make money on Atom last year because my names were good? People went to the lander and bought it, and I called it an Atom sale? Or did they help me identify the buyer in a way that I wouldn't have before, and they added value? And until we know that, I agree with Arv's point that we really don't know what that differential is. But I want to, but I don't know if we ever will.
I as someone that has been on a seller of Atom and removed my more valuable names years ago before they've kind of like focused more on premium names, I can tell you that I regret doing so. And I have decent amount of access to data among some of the top sellers on the platform. I can say with a pretty high level of confidence that they add a lot of value.
Yeah, I don't deny that, right? Just because again, you don't know what the sell-through rates are, but like what you just said right now, that's pertinent, right? If you think that by taking it off of Atom, you've had significantly less potential sales, that makes a big difference. And I wouldn't deny that either, because they're spending money to bring people in, right? They should have a higher sell-through rate. They should have higher results. But at the end of the day, it's like the sell-through rate is not relevant because a lot of the stuff there is fluff, right? So it's really, you got to compare your domains to what actually sells.
They've leveled up, right? Like that.
For
Let's be
sure.
really clear. Over the last 2 years, they've leveled up from a brand bucket type marketplace that specializes in low value, brandable names to both that and a premium domain marketplace, a true premium domain marketplace.
Yeah.
And they have undoubtedly got buyers coming in at all levels of the spectrum. I'm sure Hilco has had something to do with that. Andrew Miller and Braden and those guys, but Darpin himself is just an incredibly good operator, and they definitely bring value to both the low end and the high end, no doubt about it.
Hey, I'm on the spectrum. So, Josh, I'm glad. I was going to ask you. I had on my notes, and now that Shane's here, I can ask both of you because you guys were on this next Sherpa that's coming out, and looks pretty good. I guess Drew's not there, so everybody gets to speak a bunch. But what is this? What's your take on the state of the industry? I'm really interested. Because I see a comment like, "Yeah, you guys really hit it," and then Shane, after you, Josh, what's the state of the industry right now?
Shane, we want to hear from Shane. Domain Shane.
I'll touch on a couple points. First, I'll real quickly touch on Atom. I moved last year was my first full year at Atom, and I moved names away from brokers, some top 6-figure names, and then I moved stuff from Brand Bucket, and then my brandables over from the landing from Afternic. And I can tell you that, and it could be pure chance, but I had names that were with brokers that didn't sell, that sold for 6 figures. I had names at Brand Bucket for 6 or 7 years that didn't sell, that all of a sudden 20% of them sold. I had really good success. It could be pure luck, but there's no doubt in my mind that moving there increased the sale through rate. Because I have a 4% sell through rate of the names at Atom, and my previous sell through rate was 1.5%, 2%. So after one full year, I'm ecstatic. It added hundreds of thousands of dollars to sales that I didn't have. So I'll start with that. State of the industry is what we talked about. There's more opportunity than ever because of .ai. We've been introduced to a new TLD that just gives us an incredible outlet for more inventory and more sales. It's super competitive. The Booth brothers, we're talking about how great their sales are, but Josh and I can attest that they pay up for names. Like the amount of money they're spending for names, and that was before AI was, I mean, that was before AI is what it is. They were still paying up. Andy is not scared to pay a lot of money and make less profit and bring in good quality names. So the state of the industry is you've got to have a big bag. You if you want these big sales for the most part, and but there's a lot of opportunity that we didn't have because of AI. That's just been a huge change.
Yeah, that's a really good point, by the way, Shane. And I think that a lot of people, including myself, early on will have experienced what you just outlined, and that is that you know, in order to get good names, you have to pay up, and when you're not 100% confident in yourself within this space, it's very difficult to pay up the sums of money that you need to pay up in order to get the names that really have the highest chances at selling for high prices. And for me, that's a fairly recent thing. I've been in the space for I don't know, let's call it 10 years now. And in order for me to really get the confidence to pay up on names, it took 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And even today, it's like, you know, do I truly feel that comfortable going out and spending 60, 70K plus or whatever on a name? Uh, Not really, but you have to do it. You just got to do it because in order to get those names, you've got to pay up. And anything else, like you may think to yourself, oh, I'd rather not risk it. I'd rather just, you know, buy 50 odd names for $1,000 to $2,000. Seems like a lower risk. It's actually not a lower risk, because those names are the ones that don't sell very often. It's the ones that you can pay up and those are the ones that have the highest sell through rate. To be honest, it's just hard to get them.
If anybody's having trouble getting on stage, send me or Josh a DM. People have problems staying on stage. It's the normal X bullshit. I did hear Ish talking earlier because I want to get specifics about like other extensions. And I don't know, it's not that I like that. I like how .bot sounds. I don't think it's going to be, I think it's very speculative. Basically, no one wants to say I think it's a good decision. I like but the more I hear about it though, and the more I think about companies that are going to be using, I like .bot. And Josh, you mentioned .tech last week. I love a technology company that uses .tech. I think Ish mentioned 1x.tech, was a company out there now. And I like the idea. I like other extensions, but I guess you can talk about, Josh. I want to say, what do going back to .bot and .tech, what do you think about them? But then also give me an example after we go through this bullshit is of something where there's no alternative, because I think I could find an alternative to pretty much any domain. If the one you want is
Yeah,
taken, I think we could find you something else.
yeah. I think the premium.com, there's no alternative, and everything else there is. That's my general view. So like, if you say you want to brand on, a one word, and you're looking at the .io, but the .io is too expensive, you then can maybe have a look at the .co, and maybe then have a look at the .xyz or the .net. I would consider those all viable alternatives. But when you're really trying to make a wave, and you really want to pay up and get all the benefits of owning, the best of the best, then you get the .com, and there is no viable alternative, in my opinion.
Let me see pages that come out. I'll say quickly. So if somebody's Tiger Technology and they're like, we want tiger.com, no alternative. Tigertech.com is not good, or tiger.tech. I guess what I'm getting at is you're right. There's no equivalent to a single word, but there's companies all the time who can't get their single word.com, and they, do have to find an alternative, and many of them do, and many of them succeed. Yeah.
I guess I should say there is no alternative that is clearly worse or better or worse, meaning undebatable, completely undebatable. So I think that there could be a debate in here whether tiger.tech is better than tigertech.com. Like, I have my opinion. I would say tigertech.com is way better, but I'm sure I can find a lot of people, maybe even yourself, Todd, that may go the other way. And I think from a branding perspective, it may be fairly close as well, but there is no equivalent alternative to tiger.com. And that's not up for debate.
Paige, what do you say?
Pay now. I think I took Josh's comment about no alternative not to mean versus other extensions. I took it to mean inside of COM, the best of the best, and then the best of the best where there isn't even another COM that's the alternative. That's how I took Josh's. So paynow.com. You could say pay me now. Okay, that's probably a third the value. You could say pay fast. Nope, that's not pay now. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what I think we're talking. I did some work for a meme coin project called Lamb Wolf. It's a character from the Pepe universe. They wanted lambwolf.com. There was not an alternative in COM. It's Land Wolf. They couldn't be L Wolf. They couldn't be Land Wolf meme. You know what I mean? It was lambwolf.com, and they paid, I think it's public, they paid $42,069 for it. And I helped them get it, and the seller held out, and they wanted it, and they bought it. And I almost think that if there was never a Mike Mann, if there was never a Buy Domains, if there's never a Page How, never a Domain Sherpa, never an aftermarket, and we just had random people owning random domains that you had to contact one at a time, we would have bigger prices. We would have more of these, I need 50, I need 100, type thing. And it's almost the large holder, the buy domains of the world, that gets 500,000 names, that says, well, we need to put everything at 2,400, buy it now, that almost gave us this middle. Does that make sense, Josh? I mean, they gave us this market in the middle, as opposed to sales only take place in 5 figures. So anyway, my example is pay now.
What would be the most viable alternative to paynow.com? I'll tell you my opinion, but I'm curious what anyone else here on the stage thinks.
You guys make good points. I don't know. We have PayDirect too, paydirect.com. But
if you wanted to be Pay Now, what would be the most viable?
Pay.now is pretty cool. We didn't get that. I mean,
that's what I would go. That's what I would go with. I think Pay.now probably.
I mean, there's now with all these extensions. I mean, like we talked about tech, that really a lot of companies have technology as in their company name. Not a lot of companies have bot, in their company name. So I understand. I like that because I just like when anything is a single syllable in the extension, is even like opposed to AI, or when someone's using 3 letters and they have to spell out those, it's dot this. But yeah, you guys made good points. I mean, it sounds like I'm wrong again. No, that there really are some that there's no really great alternative. Although when you talk about that landwolf.xyz, I mean, sometimes it depends on who the demo is, the demographics of who's using it, because it seems to me like, and Paige, Julie tells us all the time, your daughter, hey, the younger generation, they're open to the stuff, and they're asking, what is the extension, and the water's getting a little murky, meaning people realize these other extensions resolve just like .com, and I think it's just, obviously more and more adoption. We're absolutely seeing it, but it's still so limited.
Yeah, but Todd, I think the buyer who doesn't have either could think that another one is just as good. Like I have DNFi.io. So if I build a fractionalization company on DNFi.io, I could say that's just as good as the COM, it's tech. But when you actually talk to the companies who have done it, I think more than anything, all they say is, man, we need to get to the COM. You know what I mean? Um, Now, beforehand, you say, oh, I can make do with this. But Josh or anyone else on the panel, have you had any experience with someone who's gone with the IO and then it's only when you have it, people type in io.com, you have a dot in your company name. You know, there's some other things that happen. But don't you think when you do run on the other one and your company becomes more substantial, that's when you really realize that you need the com?
What do you think, Mike? Shane?
I mean, we discussed this on Sherpa, didn't we? I mean, this exact same thing
Yeah.
is that when a company reaches a certain size, IO is not AI though. We talked about AI being good enough to define your company and you could be on it a while, but eventually it, they'll probably want to be a .com. IO sooner, right? IO doesn't have the same sense of branding that an AI would. So, yeah, I think yeah, I mean, I think everybody does want to upgrade to the .com. One of the things that I was going to point out is if you're a branding company or you're starting a company, the most important lesson in everything we're talking about today is domain first branding. The not having a replacement and having to get a name is how we make a great living, right? So when they name the company, they start something and it forces them to move to .com eventually or to get a better name. If you're naming a company, don't name your company until you find out what's available and the cost. It saves you so much money.
For
And
sure.
so that's just an important part of if I'm on the other side, I tell them, don't put anything out there. Don't land on a IO. Let's try and find a com that works for you. And so I think that I'm glad they don't, because again, that's how we make a lot of money. These upgrades that Paige is talking about, but so many people just have these exact words, and that's where keywords become important, right? So they want to name it a keyword. We talk about pay now. We start with the pay now, and we work the TLDs, or we work another word into it.
Mike,
Yeah,
Mike, you have a
I
small
agree.
portfolio, but do you ever? I mean, you see all this stuff come rolling through, all these new extensions. You're not much of a, say you only. It seems like you've only bought some premium.com and it's where you stay. But what do you think about .ai, .io, and these?
I dabble in the CCTLDs, not so much in the new GTLDs because the pricing tends to be a little out of whack sometimes, and I find the registries are competing against us investors directly. But my view is that not every company is going to want to upgrade to the .com, and it really depends on whether they have an offering that consumers or regular people are going to use. So, for example, um, if it's a B2B company that's really oriented just on the payment side and they enable interactions around the world. And so they're going to be a provider to Stripe or they're going to be a provider to Lemon Squeezy or something like that. They may only operate on .io or .ai because you and I are never going to go to their website and they don't care. And at some point they're going to get acquired by Stripe or Visa or MasterCard, and they're going to be totally happy with that. But then there's going to be other companies that grow like an OpenAI, and they realize, well, we're getting a lot of B2B companies that are plugging into our API and using it, which is great. But when consumers pay $20 a month, suddenly, like, that's an enormous total addressable market. And so you see them buying domains or getting domains like chat.com, which are going to be phenomenal for regular people to go use to interact with AI. And so, and then you've sort of got a middle ground where, like, I don't know, years ago I sold tulip.com to I want to say an analytics company. And so they have people at B2B companies that are using the software on a regular basis, and they were on, I don't know, Tulip Analytics or something like that. And it's easier. It's a better brand. Their customers refer to them as Tulip. They're probably not going to get acquired, and they're just going to grow, and they're profitable. And so I don't think that every company wants to own the premium.com. I think there are use cases where staying on a single word or two word.io or .ai is going to fit those companies just fine. Yes, they'd love to have the .com, but they don't need it. And so I try and think about that whenever I'm making purchases. How many of those companies are going to hopefully be big enough one day? Is it the right type of companies that I think might want to upgrade their have the largest large enough revenue that they can afford, or large enough raises that they could afford to upgrade, and it makes sense for them to upgrade. So that's sort of how, it's a little murky because there is no set rule on it, but that's sort of how I try and think about the domains that I'm buying.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then, of course, I'm buying single word.ios. I'm not buying any .ais. I don't think I own any. I missed the wave. There's no way I'm competing against the Booth brothers. They spend a lot of money on domain names, and they're the market makers in that space. So I try and just, scope out the edges where I can, where it makes sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually think that they're not the market makers. I think that they're trying. I think they're actually just trying to keep up with. I think they're partially the market makers, but I think they're also trying to keep up with the more unknown market makers that are DVA, Namecheap, and Tang, who are always, adding to their portfolio.
Yeah, but Namecheap is just selling their portfolio. Do you see them in auctions?
That part is a little strange. I'm not exactly sure how they keep acquiring the new names. I think that they might just be picking them off. So
They get them in
yeah,
the middle of the night somewhere. They get them somewhere. You don't know how.
Yeah, it's all a little cloudy, and
is that part of why you're not that interested in it?
No, it's just that I missed it, and I have less disposable income right now because I'm fully retired and don't have an operating business. If I had an operating business still churning cash flow, I'd think about investing more. I'd still be buying more names on a regular basis, but right now I'm pretty much just holding and selling.
But
or an opportunistic buying.
You will buy .ios if you see them at a reasonable price.
I will, just because I love my .io.
Yeah, but that's I love my .ios too, and I sold a little batch of them to a friend of mine, which was kind of sad because it was I felt like I was somewhat admitting defeat on that TLD. But I don't know. I want .io to be okay, but
yeah, I think it still is going to be okay. People still like their IOs too. Not everything is a AI focused startup.
Yeah, agreed. It just feels like so much of that market has gone to .ai.
Yeah, I don't know. I bought a small portfolio of .ios when I was in London at a conference. Like, how many years ago was that? Like, I can't. It must have been pre-COVID. So over 5 years ago, at that Portugal conference, and two of those domain names sold this year for me, both on payment plans. So those are my only two sales this year from my personal portfolio. Both single words.
Right? I think were they under 10 grand?
One was just over, one was under.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of like 5 to 15 range.
Yep.
They still seem to do quite well.
Yeah, well, Amar just said on the latest Sherpa, right? He sold a 2-word.io, which I was thinking about. Maybe I'll start getting rid of my 2 words. And then Amar sells one. I'm like, okay, I'm keeping my 2-word.ios.
Yeah. Again, it's like seeing the sales, right? When you see the sales and you're like, oh, I should price my names higher. It's just like it's a constant mind, you know what?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm one of those guys who comes off mute just to laugh. What a loser. And then I go back on mute. I just do it because fucking got nothing to do. I'm sitting here with my fucking mouse in my hand. Hey, I got you guys here, and it's cool. So with all the 5 guys here on stage, you guys are, mostly builders, tech guys. I mean, programming. I guess I wanted to ask specifically some long shots for the crowd. What do you think of these 3? And then if you don't like them, what are some long shot extensions that there's, okay, .bot, .tech, .dev. There's tons of great shit that's still available. I don't necessarily like them. I do like the look, and if something really makes sense, I want to, I do picked up a few .bot. I don't think I have any of the others too, but I do like the whole idea, and I like that it's, like I said, single syllable. So what, do you like any of those 3 extensions for long shot? You're at the horse track and you know it's not a good one, but it's a gray horse and you like the jockey, so you're still going to bet it. So what do you like any of those 3? And then if any other long shot extensions you can share.
So we talked. I posted about this to someone the other day, and I think that there are 2 main qualifiers that you need to look for on when you're investing in alternative extensions. And the first one is, are there end users that are beginning to use it? And I would quantify that in some way. I don't know if it's, you want to see like 20 plus or 30 plus or 50 plus. I think it depends how much of a risk you want to take. But the second thing, and I think the most important thing, is that it needs to represent a niche that you think has explosive growth opportunities. And that is why .ai is so unique, is because it was gaining adoption, 10 years ago, 7 years ago, 5 years ago. And at the time, it wasn't quite clear what the growth opportunities were for your everyday person. I think that there were certainly people that were deep in the uh, artificial intelligence weeds that probably had a pretty good idea that it was going to be huge and it was going to, have this explosive growth like we've seen. But it didn't become apparent to, your everyday person until I'll say about 2 years ago, maybe even slightly less. So when you're searching for an alternative TLD, it needs to represent a niche, in my opinion, because if it doesn't represent a niche, then um, you know, it doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't really add any value. And at that point, we already have TLDs that are, like completely like open vessel, like a .com and a .org and a .net and a .co, right? And I think that when the .com can't be taken, the .co and .net fill that, and .org may sometimes like fill that void pretty well. I think the .org I don't quite put in that same bucket because I think the .org has niche as well. And those niches are uh, non-profit type things, community type things, health, crypto, gambling. So gambling really likes .orgs. And so that's carved out a niche as well, which is why .org does so well, which is why .org last year was even bigger TLD on Afternic than .ai. I think that will have switched now. I think that going into 2025, you'll see that at the end of the year, when hopefully Afternic will do another report on TLDs, I think you'll see that .ai will take the second spot over, and .org will now be third. But back to my main point, I think when you're looking for an opportunity in other TLDs, you got to answer those 2 questions. So then you go out and you say, okay, .gg represents the gaming industry. There is adoption. There's plenty of companies that are using .ggs. You know, I don't know exactly the number, but let's say more than 50 for sure. So that's a good sign, and you know, we know investors that are having success in that TLD. Now the question is like, how much explosive growth from here is there in gaming, because that's what it represents, right? And I don't think that's particularly clear, right? Does it have the same kind of explosive growth as artificial intelligence? Are there going to be like, you know, all these companies in gaming that are raising a lot of money? I think essentially we can all agree the answer is probably no. So, you know, does that have like explosive upside? Probably not. Can you make money on it? Yeah, you can, but it's not going to be to the same magnitude as something like an AI or an IO, right? Why did IO succeed? You know, over the last 10 years or so, it's because it represented it. You know, it got adoption and it represented tech, right? And as we know, tech was a pretty big industry that got a lot of funding. So, you know, that makes sense. And it checks both those boxes. And, you know, tech over the last 10 years has seen, you know, explosive growth. So AI followed the same suit. Like I said, GG doesn't quite like tick that box for explosive growth. I'm rambling right now, by the way, so you can
Yeah,
cut me
I
off
wanted
if
to
you want.
say, Shane, do you think let me go to Shane. Do you think .bot, .dev, .tech have any room to grow some legs for any growth, anything there with those? And then outside of that, what do you like? But anything with .bot, do you think there could be a future there? Can be growth with .tech or .dev?
See, I just approach it completely different. I just think the keyword to me is so much more important than the ending because of the way people are looking, right? I think AI is an anomaly in the fact that people are looking at AI. They start with AI, they want AI. Everything else, I think they come up with a brand and then start with a .com and work down. I really do feel there are very few TLDs that's where they start. I think they settle. So when I'm looking for names, I just like I don't try and capture a TLD or a CC TLD. That's just not how my mind works, and I don't think that's how people's brain works when they're figuring out a brand. So I'm more in I call it the flat model. I think Logan Flat and Jason did a great job at it. I think they start with the word and they try and find words that are very common and upgradable because there's so many people that are using that word, and then they see if the TLD makes sense. And to me that just seems to be a more profitable approach than to try and corner .now or corner .bot and get ahead of the TLD. I don't mind being a little late after it's been established, right? I'm not the guy that comes in and tries to get it super early. I'm always a second wave guy that wants us kind of proven what it's going to be known for. I use the example all the time is .so. Really didn't become anything till Notion started operating on .so and all of a sudden started representing something. So my feeling is just a little different. I don't know about .bot. I don't really care about .bot, but I saw a couple names that came up that made sense than .bot, so I purchased them. But otherwise, it's all about the left of the dot for me, and then trying to find a name that makes sense. And one thing I always look is the .com taken? Is it for sale? What's it priced for? Is the alternatives? What are their pricing? And if they've got it priced at $14.99 or something like that, then it just doesn't make sense for me to come in and take it because I've already got alternatives that are going to be cheaper than I'd like to sell it for. So
Now,
that's kind of my thought
okay,
process.
and Shane, now that's a great point. The last point there.
One
Yeah.
second, Todd. 1 second. I'm gonna finish making my point because it's on the same line as Shane. The essentially where I'm going, and the reason why I wanted to explain it in somewhat more detail, like I was, is because I think that the ultimate conclusion that you'll come to is that there are no other extensions that are even remotely close to having the potential that AI had. So, you know, GG doesn't check that box. VC doesn't check that box, despite the fact that it represents an industry, despite the fact that there is adoption. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's explosive growth in the venture capital world. So, that is my point. Is like, you know, .bot, now. .now definitely not, right? .now doesn't represent anything. It's just other than now. So yeah,
Well, Josh,
that's
I was going to say something similar. That's why I said, so the end of what Shane said, definitely, Braden brought that up to me. But, when you're messing with other extensions, and we all know this, but we love to hear it from each other who spend time thinking about it, that, yeah, you're going to mess with these other extensions. You certainly want to see what's going on the .com and really the rest. But Shane, I will say, no, we're all alike with regards to no one's saying, hey, bot, get hot, start getting fucking coffee house bot. We're talking about, I'm talking about specifically, there are at least probably thousands of names that will go with bot. Um, I have, just like when you said you picked up a couple because they made sense. And then technology companies, they'll go with .tech, but certainly you're just not going to get, like I said, coffeehouse.tech. So they're never going to catch on. They are specific. They're not going to catch on like the you left out .xyz when you were talking about these, sort of meaningless open vessel extensions, and it actually snuck in there with a million or two now registrations. So along with .co, .net, and .org, in addition, of course, to .com. So I do when I was saying .tech, .dev, .bot. Of course, they're not open vessels. They mean something specific, but that's why we're thinking .ai meant something pretty specific, but it's sort of blasted out. It's really unusual, but that's why I was, mentioning that, so you do have to be careful with these other extensions, but
this
some of
is
them,
why .xyz is such a viable TLD, right? It's for these exact reasons. It's because it was adopted by the crypto community, and that's an explosive industry to be in. They get funded a lot, and they're willing to pay up for domain names. So, that's the reason why .xyz is, you'll see more six-figure sales in .xyz than you see in like a you know other extension that you may think is just as good. Is that it's not been adopted by an industry that has a lot of funding.
yeah, like,
Yeah, that's the point that I wanted to make also. We as investors are trying to chase what's the cultural norm or what's changing in the culture. And so, I had a post today that was on X that was a little tongue in cheek, about new GTLDs, but actuality, the CCLDs are selling and they're .ai, .co, .io, and .so. And I didn't put .vc in there because it's not explosive, like you're saying, Josh. And I didn't put XYZ in there, although the crypto community took it up. So that was a cultural change. Um, but, it's ebbs and flows on crypto. It could be high today and low tomorrow. Um, so, if you look at the communities that are actually taking it up, IO was in there, .co was in there before that, .ai is the 800-pound gorilla of CCTLDs right now. We're seeing some motion in .so like Notion years ago, but there's more and more of these startups that are picking .so for whatever reason. And then the thing that I try and do uh, is follow who's being funded. And there's somebody on the call right now named Darcy Mason, who has built another X account called Raising.fi, Raising Finance. And so the handle is at Raising FI. And it's basically just I don't know how he builds this. If he wants to come up, I'd love to hear how he has built this and where he gets his data. But it's just every single, whenever this script runs, it posts to X and it's got new raise. And the latest one is a .io, then a .io. And so I'm going back reverse chronological, then a .ai, then a .com, then a .com, then a .co, then a .com, then a .com. And so the other thing that I look at is on the .coms, is it a single word or two words? If it's .io, is it a single word or two words? Here's a DE, here's an NL, a .studio slipped in there, another .com. So, I'm always I don't find the time to get to Crunchbase to see what's being funded, but that's useful if you have a domain name to go check out. But in this case, it sort of gives me a pulse. It's not the end all be all, but it's a pulse of what companies that started over the probably the past year to 2 years are doing to get funded, at what level, and what domains they're using.
I can't remember. It was maybe an old interview with you, Mike, when you were still doing Sherpa, or it might have been Domain Name Wire at one point. But there was an interview at one point where somebody mentioned that at around $100 million total market cap of the companies, represented by a TLD, that TLD starts to become valid, for lack of a better word, right? And I don't think that number's pie in the sky, right? It's not a line in the sand. And of course, it really depends on how much marketing and awareness there are for those particular companies. But I think it brings a kind of something like the concept of once there's enough critical mass of use, it becomes viable. But that's where the danger, I think, in these conversations are, right, when it comes to these alternative TLDs, because there's potential in pretty much every single alternative TLD. But the problem is that most people, what they miss is they don't realize how narrow the band is of domains that are actually investable, to the point where you can actually flip them with enough volume to be profitable and pay for the ones you're not selling, right? It's very narrow. It has to be really short, one word most of the time. Now we're seeing for the first time ever, I think, in AI, there's some, but very, very specific 2 words that are selling. But we can't say that it's 2-word AIs that are selling. No, it's very specific 2-word AIs. We really have to be careful of using those terms, right? Because it's still miles away from .com. Like the stuff I sell, the 2-word bread and butter domains, I call them, in .com, that I sell regularly, probably none of them would ever sell in .ai, right? And that's okay, right? But that's the danger of them. People will see what I sell and they go, oh, AI is hot now, and they'll take the same thing I have in 2-word .com and they'll buy the .ai and they'll lose their shirts. So that's where really people have to really, obviously the left of the dot has to match the right of the dot. I think what Shane said is really, about Logan Flat. That's really a good thing. You take a left, a word or a term that you like, you think there's, demand for, and then you see which extensions make sense for that word. That's how you want to do it, right? Because you do not want loosey-goosey words, even if they're one words, for the wrong, extension, because they'll never sell. There's not that demand that's there yet.
Well, you made a good point about the critical mass, because it is true with these new extensions. You want to know, is there adoption? Is there 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 names registered in it? I wouldn't have thought, now we've been proven wrong, but .ai, I think there was going to be 1 million of them. What is there, 200,000 of them? 1 million? I don't even know how many are registered, but it hit that critical mass. I don't think, in investing in an extension that has 15,000 registrations, yeah, it's no different than investing in a meme coin with super low market cap. And you're like, look, I'm trying to get in now because, boy, when it gets to 50,000, 100,000 registrations, some of mine that do make sense with the other side of the fucking dot will go up in value. So we're doing this as domain investors, and I appreciate everybody's comments here, because investors listening, especially ones that have been around for a while, like myself, I'm like, yeah, I want some long shots still. Sort of like Mike's investment strategy. Yeah, well, I want to buy value. Value is really expensive now. So, is there any alternatives to having to spend mid 4 figures up to 5 figures, 6 figures for a name? To really have a big return? And that's why I love the idea of the alternate extensions. We're seeing successes, and then also new GTLDs next year. There's going to be something there.
But Todd, that's actually probably the biggest danger for domain investing, right? There's all kinds of things, warnings people said over the years.
Well, all
the
the
apps
new boobies, then don't do it. Then yeah, I'm gonna fucking.
I was explaining what I was trying to say is that as these alternatives become more and more viable, as more extensions become viable, right? That means the in terms of demand, it gets diluted towards all these other extensions, and it's all about supply and demand when you're selling products, right? And so if there's more alternatives, right, and then there's less demand on what we actually own, then the value goes down, right? And the price points will go down. And that's, I think, the only danger we have as domain investors going forward. Like there's all kinds of people say about this tech, and there's all kinds of warnings. And, there are things in the past that have diluted demand. It's just that the growth of the internet has outpaced that, right? And the strength of .com has really, maintained its value because, the value and the demand has gone up for the top tier domains versus, the rest of the stuff. But, if all these other extensions come out and the next generation of people and the young kids that come out and they all of a sudden they're now 10 years later and 30 years, 10, 20 years later, they're 30 and 40 years old and they're the ones buying and all their clients understand what a non.com is, well, then all of a sudden it's going to be much more difficult as a domain investor because there's going to be so many more alternatives, right? So that's the one danger we have, but it's longer term, and I don't really see that being an issue short term.
Well, we're lucky to have. I hope he's still listening. Page has been doing this longer than most all of us. He is not opposed to taking some big risk and looking for some, basically long shots. So, Paige, what are your thoughts on, where can we find value with some of these new GTLDs?
Well, I'll only share where I've lost money. So TV is my biggest loser ever, and I still believe in it. In the last year, oh boy, is Mike still here? I hope not. He's going to kill me. Sometimes you take the position that the worst possible TLD is the one you should invest in. So on that note, I bought 70 rodeos last year. But like Shane said, it was only because I was getting Web3 rodeo, staking rodeo, crypto rodeo, Bitcoin rodeo. You know what I mean? And so Shane's comment about top down is so important. Anyway, third is WS, where I've made money the last year. It's risky. Don't do it. I love it. It's my favorite. But don't do it unless you know it. And then I've got a fourth one, and I can't tell you it because I'm still buying in it, but I will have some. How's this for a shill? I will have some on Domain Outlet, which is opening on Monday. And it's exactly what you guys are looking for, the 2-letter, huge industry. It's been mentioned on the show already today. And I'll have some on the outlet on Monday. How's that for a tease? Unless you drag it out of me today.
Okay, well, I'm going to say when you bought your second rodeo, you told the registrar, this isn't my first rodeo. Okay, so you're such a savvy investor or an experienced investor. Love to hear that you went with .rodeo. I mean, that's just a talk about. Hey, Shane, what did you think when he said .rodeo? Did you think you didn't do anything to harm
I said
yourself?
he got it half right. He got the words on the left right, but he matched them up to something completely non-related to the keyword. So Paige knows what he's doing, and I love Paige as much as anybody in the industry, but don't do that, everybody.
I had fun. I spent 80 names at $8, so I spent $640, and I'm having fun. So, like I tell people when I do coaching, why are you doing what you're doing? And I can tell you, I was not buying .rodeo. I would loved it if I made money, but I thoroughly enjoyed buying those names, and it was worth it.
Well, Todd, here's a news flash for you. I, in the last week or so, bought my first premium NGTLD ever.
Oh, I thought you were going to say .rodeo.
No, not .rodeo, not .rodeo. It's a .agency.
Oh, yeah, what was it?
Style.agency.
Okay, style.agency. Paige, we got to go back to you because I mentioned to folks, hold on here, that when you said this, when you open the outlet again, usually you do it because you're seeing sales slow down, you want to do some volume, your outlet, domainoutlet.com. Of course, we're here to promote DNX.com, so we can't give you too much time here. But anyway, domainoutlet.com. I tell people when Paige opens it up.
I will say this, in an exclusive partnership that Josh doesn't even know about, I will be listing the outlet names for the same price on Afternic as the outlet. So you will be able to buy them on DNX.com.
We'll tell us a few of the outlet names and tell us what people can expect when they go there, because there's a lot of people listening to this that think I've never heard of Domain Outlet, and it's fucking great. Basically, it's like a definitely one of those outlet malls. But tell us what's in something. Give us a few names that you're including this time.
All right. Well, I'm just adding list number 2, so I'm going to put a bunch of Geo Service up there at $29, and now I got to find them. Hold on. I took everything I bought in the past year, sorted by acquisition cost, took all my $8 Dynadots, and put them up for $29 to $39. You know why? Because I like buying domains and I like selling domains. I'm stalling because I got to find where in my database I have these darn
We'll
things.
we'll look for them. I'll mention to everybody, Paige. You're gonna
Well,
find
thank you for that shout out. I do know that this is a DNX show,
well,
but
I'm
let's
just
No,
see.
no, it's not.
I'm
That's only
bullshitting.
because Todd wanted to call it that. I don't know why he wants to be
Because
so nice
DNX
to me.
sounds like anything. I wanted to play off of
All
his
right,
hard
so
work, finally. It's like he's doing something, but then we knew in the long run.
I have a question for actually people, if you wouldn't mind. One thing that I'm interested in exploring recently is, you know how endings and like get brand and go brand and all that kind of thing have been popular. One that I haven't explored much in the past, but I've noticed a kind of like an uptick in, is keyword plus HQ.com, and like for headquarters. Do you think those are good names? Like if you're able to get like a good keyword plus HQ.com. I've been trying to find some, but they're actually, they get bid up quite high, so there are other people that like them too.
well, as Site HQ, which is my corporation name, I can say that it was attractive for me back in 1998, when my designer said, I got a name for our company, Site HQ, and I really liked it, you know. So that was back when there was a lot of stuff available, and and I really liked it. So I'll tell you, in my mind, I'm building an AI valuation tool. And I think the way you can tell that HQ is popular within users is take the top 400 words, put them into bulk search, and if you find that only 17 of them are on Seidu, you know what I mean? And I know not everything's on Seidu, but if all of a sudden you take 400 of the top words and there's only 17 for sale, and then you put it into GoDaddy and there's only 23 for sale, I think that hints at strong end user demand. And that's something I've been using lately to see what suffixes are really valuable. Is it popular among domainers, or is it popular among non-domainers? And I think HQ would be popular among non-domainers. So I like it.
That's it, Paige. That's it. And that's about, these are the kind of angles that you need to find in domain investing. It's like, and I've talked about this before, it's not about what all your friends in the domain industry say is popular. It's about what everyone outside of the industry thinks is popular.
Yeah, and back to the Booth brothers. There's also a factor that those I don't know them that well, but I picture they work pretty hard, and they set high expectations for themselves, and they look at a problem, try to figure it out, try to address it, try to come up with a solution, and more than anything, that's got to play a factor in their success. Is just working it clinically, unemotionally, clinically, rinsing and repeat what works and not doing what doesn't work. So that's what I've always pictured that they probably do. Now, for all I know, they're pulling stuff out of their hat, but I've always pictured a real drive and desire there, much like Josh and Shane here and Mike Seiger. That's a big part of it too.
Absolutely right.
James is really something, in my opinion. Go ahead, Shane. You know more about what the Booth brothers do.
Andy and James would be good at trading anything. If it was 150 years ago, they would be trading some other commodity. Like, they're just natural flippers. I worked with them on a project, and when NFTs came up, that same thing happened. They were the best ape traders in the business. They're just good. That's what they do really well. They find there's not that much. There's emotion. I wouldn't say there's not emotion, because they get excited just like anybody else, but they're just really naturally gifted at that. And Andy is definitely the original person, but James came on and quickly, I don't want to say better. He's a totally different person, but he's definitely more aggressive than Andy is at it. Andy plays the old I'm out of it, I'm not doing anything, but he has just as much love of it and drive. It's a little different. They're two different people completely, but they're just so naturally good at it. And I don't mean naturally, but they're so good at it that you could put anything besides domains in their hands and they would be just as successful.
We normally go for 2 hours on Thursdays. We're going to go for another 15 minutes today. A little more on Tuesdays or on Thursdays. Got a hard stop for me always at noon, so it's beautiful. We go for 2 hours. No one, gets too bored. So we're going to go a little bit longer. I just want to say quickly, Josh, about James. He in the U page, James does really what you do, Page, but maybe I can say on a maybe a different
Yeah,
type scale.
thank you for that, but I just don't think
Well,
so.
what
But
I mean
thank
is, I see James say, "Hey, I got this portfolio for sale now." He's not opposed to selling names for lower prices, and he'll post, "I sold this for 2,500, a small one." We know those are the guys who when you're a top salesperson, you take all the different sales, and then he had 200 name batch for a certain amount, and it comes to $600 each, or even $160 each. He was selling maybe 20. He moves names like Shane said. This guy's he hustles, and definitely different than his brother. Andy's more of the sitting, the more of a, seems like less from what I know, less, bigger investments, more premium names. James really is not opposed to really any sector of names, meaning under 5,000. He's got plenty of those for sale too. So I love to see and I said, like you, that when things aren't probably not, he's not getting a lot of sales. Don't know how much, I don't call it, certainly not desperate with those guys. And even with you, Paige, it's more of you get strategic, you get smart, you need some, you want some income, even if it's not needed. No one's, the light bills are still paid, but you're thinking, this is just ridiculous. That's how I felt last year when I sold, 100,000, or I'm sorry, 1,000 4-letter for 200 each just to get my money back. Yeah, I needed the 200 grand. I needed it because I don't mess, my domain stuff has to take care of itself. When there's no domain sales, something got to give. Some names got to be sold. And it's really tough. You call friends, I call over in Asia, and then I say call, you email them and say, "Hey, yeah, I'm willing to, get a little aggressive on price." No one's desperate. We're pretty much everybody's, lucky who, like I said, the bills are paid, but domain sales, if I didn't focus on profits these last decade, yeah, who knows what would have happened. Basically, I make sure money's got to come from this. This isn't, it's like selling records to me. I got to sell some stuff. Don't just keep hoping for sales later. And sometimes, just getting my investment back, is worth it to me. There was more other bullshit I wanted to say, but I got so maybe that's a lot to cover. Next week we're on to a regular time, 10 a.m. Pacific to 1 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. But Josh, what else you think we can cover for the next 10 minutes? What's happening?
Yeah, I got a quick one, Todd. Can I talk about our Monday night show with Julie and I? Is that too much?
Absolutely. Or? Do it, Paige. Thank you.
So we're bringing back Monday Night Domains, which was active on Clubhouse for 3 years, and we're doing it as a video on 7 p.m. Monday nights with Julie and I. And she's embarking on a contest very similar to the GoDaddy contest, which we didn't know about until Mike told us. But she's starting with $100. She's up to 170. She's getting the domainer lazy. Oh, these will sell sometime. I don't have to work. But I think she may have a couple sales this weekend. But here's the question I teased last week, and you can chime in with your thoughts. Domain renewals. When you're going to renew a domain name, does it matter how long you've owned the domain name? Or is it simply, would you buy, I'm talking about mostly hand-reg domains, okay? I'm not talking about, one words and stuff. If you wouldn't buy the name today, should you renew it because you've owned it for a while? So we don't have to answer it here, but that's what we're going to talk about Monday night. So thanks for the chance to share that. Monday Night Domain, 7 o'clock on X on video, and then we do the chat afterwards. Thanks.
It's cool that you do both, and that software that you use for the video is cool. People can comment. I mean, I like everything that you're doing, and Julie's awesome. She's like, I mean, you can see her growth, learning every week because she has great questions, and it is important to have a view of somebody who it's not, has less experience and also her age. So and then it's just, anyway, it's great to see what she's doing on social media too, promoting these names. Basically, she's competing with the guys, with Mike and them. She had to sell pretty fast, and I know you'll give us an update on Monday. It's good. You got a space on Monday to listen to. Yeah, that's when you start to chime in, Josh, like it's smooth, like we're a fucking morning team.
Yeah, I mean, got nothing more. Once I hit the 2 hour mark, you see me on Sherpa. If they go long, I start checking out.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why we do it. That's why we do it 2 hours, and then that's the
Plus, he's
smartest thing.
bidding against me on NamesJet right now too. So.
Oh, I know. One final thing is, I think everybody pretty much on stage has mentioned it. Shane, I know you have, and I didn't want to bring it up because it's sensitive. No, it's about GoDaddy auctions. There's some fucking great stuff in these GoDaddy auctions. I didn't want to promote it because I don't get paid for it, and
well, I do. I get paid to promote it. So make sure to go to the GoDaddy premium auction going on right now. Joe Styler, you listen to this, James?
Hey, well, tell us. I mean, tell us.
Hey, Shane, is there a way to find out some of the better names that are on the GoDaddy auction in a way that's easily digestible?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that anybody wants my picks. I just put them up there just so that you know that the world didn't end when you went to sleep. But no, there's, I actually the funny thing is I actually emailed them and said, hey, there's too many names. There's like 1,000 names. How can it be premium if you put all these names? But, there's a lot of good names there. And I'm on the .io. I like that people are saying .io is failing. It's actually gotten me more interested now in the names because I want everybody to quit buying them and fade a little bit, and because I don't think they're going anywhere. But there's some .ios in there from Identity Digital in the portfolio, so there's some good quality names. But this is what we live on. This is what I tell everybody. Domain investors, we need inventory, and I like when GoDaddy opens up their coffers. I like when they ask other people to put their names in there. That's what we need. I don't really care where it comes from. I'm just really glad that they're doing things like that and giving us more opportunity to buy names. And I'm not saying that facetiously. I mean that. I need inventory, and I need as much out there. And when Cedo does their great domains, and when GoDaddy does these special events, it gives us just more opportunity to find some names that wouldn't have been available otherwise.
I need a 90% off coupon for most of those. They're high starting points. They're awesome.
But they're not really, because in my opinion, the number one thing in price negotiation has already been taken care of. The seller has put a price on it, and when they were setting the price, they were thinking, what's it gonna take to move the name? You know what I mean? I think that's what Shane was saying, right?
That page? If you look at Travis, he pulled the names, and there's probably 150 names that were at auction. And if you'll notice, the opening bid is where the auction ended on a lot of those. So some of those are people that bought names and put them back up, trying to do a sell again type thing, which is great. I mean, that's what auctions are for. Yeah. But there's all kinds of different things going on there, but it's still available inventory, and there's lots of history to go over and find that it has sold for that once before.
Right, but they'll never be priced so low that everyone will buy them, because they only need this. But I think there has to be some type of personal connection, wouldn't you say, Shane? If it's an area that you've bought in and made money in, like I bought fantasyfootball.club last time because I've made money on club and I've made money on fantasy football, and they set the price at 700, and that was good for me. But it wasn't like, oh, this is a smoking hot deal I can't lose. There had to be some element that there was a little emotion, don't you think, to get up to their price? But then once you have it, your price is going to be a lot higher. So I think, or if they're not going to be smoking hot deals. They're going to be, if the name is in a niche or a place that you'd like to be receiving inquiries on that name, and you can defend a 5-figure price. I think that's where you can acquire some good inventory.
Yeah. I also, in context being, I'm also probably the cheapest domainer there is out there, and proudly so, right? So yeah.
A good price is, I mean, this is what I tell everybody. A good price is one that you don't say immediately yes, that means it was priced too low. Immediate no, that means it was priced too high. It's one that you have to think about a little bit. In those opening offers, on a couple of them, people jumped all over them. And then right now we're at the range where people are saying, yeah, that's about where I'd like to start. And then and then people will jump on from there with the confidence of other bids. People like lines. A restaurant that could be really good, but there's nobody in it, you're going to go to the restaurant with lots of people in it. So you see the bids and you start piling on. That's kind of how it works. GoDaddy has the data and the information asymmetry that we don't have. They know where to price their names. They're the professionals, and I'm sure those opening bids are there for a reason.
Okay, I see Josh always off mute. I didn't know if he's going to say something. Hold on there. We're almost done here. But I'm so glad that Shane and Paige just said what they said about the. First of all, there's a lot of great names in this GoDaddy auction, and I agree 100%, Paige, that you want to. I like it to know if I bid on it, I'm going to get that one sold. So we don't want reserves. As soon as there's reserves, we don't know what's going on. So the 100%, I love the setup, and there's plenty of names that are there. And Shane hit it on the head. If you think, yeah, get it immediately, well, maybe you're missing something that, why is it available? But more likely, a lot of other folks are going to see it. And if it's way high and no, that's just out, doesn't make sense. But I look at a lot of the names on that list, and it's exactly right, Shane. I'm thinking that's about, I'm wanting to do it. And then the next day we see those first bids on some of these, and they may end up just that, or they may end up with just two bids. But I think there's some great value there. So I'll finish by saying there's two. Well, what Shane mentioned about the .io, Mike mentioned it about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. Yeah, he doesn't want anybody to look at him. He's like liking them, and then he slips in an X post. Hey, if you have any, send them to me. So I mean, I love that both of you guys who have been doing this for a while think, hey, if there's a little bit of weakness in .io, or I can come across some good ones, I am doing it. So it makes the rest of us think, all right, well, we might do the same thing too, try to get ahead of you guys. But both of you have newsletters too, so definitely check out Shane's newsletter. Go to DSAD, check it out. Seiger's newsletter. Mike, where do they go? Because you got a few websites. Where do they go for your newsletter?
They can go to my profile, which has a username for each of them. One is called Seiger Says, which is the tweets that I want to add more context, or some people had some responses that I didn't think about or added to the conversation. So I'll highlight those on Friday mornings, my tweets with other thoughts that I had because I was throwing them all together or people had some comments. And then I have a separate newsletter called Seiger Selects. So I editorially select things that I find interesting, things I didn't know, usually things like that are going on in the industry that I think other domain investors should know about. And I will select those and put them into a separate, different newsletter called Seiger Selects. So you can go to seigerselects.com, or you can go to seigersays.com, or you can go to both and sign up for both. But thanks for reading.
Yeah, so Seiger Selects. I'm going to look for my name next week. Otherwise, I'm going to start calling it Seiger Selects. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I won't do that, Mike.
I think somebody pushed seigersucks.com to me at one point. I'm like, what am I going to do with that one?
I don't know. Video. Okay. Hey, listen.
Extra money.
I'm really, I appreciate you being here. Thanks a lot, Paige and Arif and Mike and Shane. I mean, fuck, it's great to have you guys. When I look at the stage, I see just that. I'm thinking, geez, a ton of domainers love to speak to you guys. And thanks for being here. And Jason.com, Vahid being here. So you guys, thanks for doing this. Listen, I'm going to say what shows everybody should listen. There's a lot of domain good stuff that's on here. There's also pop-ups, but anyway, so tomorrow you got Ish in the morning. He does it at usually about 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays, just talking about domains, just like we do here. A lot of great stuff. And then, of course, Monday night, Paige has it. It's 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and you can find it. Just follow Page, and then he does a combo video, and then they go do an X space, and you can try to get on stage. And sometimes he'll let you, sometimes he won't. Tuesday, domain name law, still doing it. Jeff Newman, he's coming back from ICANN in Prague. I called it Prague the other day, and Braden said, you don't travel, do you? And I'm like, I should be in The Hague. I know that. Okay, so that's Tuesday, domain name law. Jeff's going to come back and give us an ICANN 83 update. That was the year I graduated from high school. Okay, so that's a Tuesday. Every Tuesday. We've been doing it for almost 5 years now. That's noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, and then whip it around the horn. Next Thursday, catch us here, DNX Show, 10 a.m. in the morning for if you're on the West Coast, East Coast, 1 p.m. Eastern. I've said it all. I got it all down. But hey, thanks a lot, Josh, for making room this week. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for doing a great job again, Todd, and thanks guys for coming up and speaking. I appreciate it. Have a great one. Enjoy your weekends.